Hey guys, Watchmen Season 1, HBO 2019. A few final rotten reviews. I actually finished watching Season 1 of The Watchmen. I watched it on schedule. I DVR'd it on HBO. And I wanted to give people a chance to put their reviews on Rotten Tomatoes, at least the people that are motivated to do so, for a while before I actually made one final video encapsulating Season 1. Well, we can see that it has a 96% fresh on the tomato meter with 98 critic ratings and a 51% on the audience score with 5,575 user ratings. I'll say those numbers haven't changed too much from where they were when I did my second Watchmen video, my Rotten Review episode. But I'm going to recapitulate the entire season, and just my own personal opinion is that I predicted that the Watchmen season 1 series, it wasn't really going anywhere plot wise, and I was kind of wrong. I was proven wrong in a good way. It did actually progress. It did have a story. Things did happen, and I continued to watch it. And although it was very slow, it took quite a long amount of running time. It took quite a few episodes to actually move the plot forward. There was a lot of explaining mysteries and past backstory, but it finally actually did move the plot forward. It didn't move it forward in a way that really surprised me. I kind of predicted where this was going in a lot of ways, but I don't fault it for that. I maintain that it's still got the problem where it dwells a lot on racial justice issues. At least it goes through the motions and deliberately tries to focus on that above and beyond everything else. And yet this does have very little to do other than callbacks to the characters and setting. It has very little to do with the original Watchmen comic. Many people have commented on this. It's a big complaint. It's probably largely why the audience score is stuck at 51%. The film, the series, it simply just focuses so much on racial issues that it overwhelms everything else. It drowns everything else out. There's a lot of good stuff here. There's a lot of stuff that's weird enough to keep you interested. There's enough stuff here you haven't seen before. It's shot just fine. There are a couple of episodes that are just outstanding to me. They shine much more than the other episodes. But overall, if you take it all into account, it's just bogged down too much with the focus on racial tensions. And it might work. I mean, it certainly does work. It keeps you watching, but it clashes that racial story along with other things that a lot of people might find off-putting. I mean, it goes into mixing the racial issue with homosexuality and I don't know what you want to call them, what would be considered character flaws. All kinds of weird things are going on with characters mixed in with this real heavy focus on a racial issue backstory. I don't know. It's very strange. I think the audience score would be a lot higher if, yes, it continued on the same topic, but didn't try to, cram it down people's throats like a old dusty, dirty rag. I mean, that's what it feels like. Some of these episodes, it's done, but it's done well, and some of the episodes, it's like it's literally trying to cram something down your throat, and it's not pleasant at all. Largely, you want to watch something and enjoy it, not just cringe at it, and it's got too much cringe. It's just a little bit too much over the top in that regard. So I'll say if I had to give this a star rating, I would say that 3 stars is fair. It's enjoyable. It's worth watching. I really can't tell if it's going to continue on past the first season. I think it should because, like I already admitted, I watched the whole thing. It was weird enough and interesting enough to keep me watching. Even the parts that made me cringe and it felt like it was too heavy-handed, it still wasn't enough to get me to shut it off. Although I can see why a lot of people probably would have. They would not have continued on with it. But I think it's okay. It's okay enough to get a second season. But I hope that the second season gives us something more and it doesn't just cram more racial justice narrative stuff down our throats, because that would be really disappointing. It's done quite enough already. I hope it goes into other weird areas and keeps it interesting. But I think it will get a second season, and at some point, I think it actually deserves to get a second season. And I know a lot of people out there are going to disagree with me, but I think it's enough to keep watching, and I think it's just weird enough to keep watching, and it's just unique enough to keep watching, despite the fact that it often rubs me the wrong way. So let's get right into the audience reviews. 3 hours ago, 2.5 stars. It was great, but the finale was a letdown. Well, I'll say, yeah, I could see 2.5 stars. I say 3 stars for just the quality of it, the uniqueness of it. Yeah, the finale was a letdown. You could see it coming. You could kind of see where this was going. About halfway in, I kind of figured that this was going to go where it went. It better do a whole lot better in season 2, assuming there's a season 2. Otherwise, it's going straight down. It's not going to keep its audience. It's going to have to do something very unique with how this ended. It's going to have to do something that we're not expecting, because if they don't take this someplace unique, it's just not all that. It's not special enough to continue. It's going to lose everybody. It's going to have like a lot lower of a rating than just 50-something%. So I don't know. If it continues, it better go someplace unique. I won't say the finale was a letdown. I'll just say that it became obvious by the time you're 3 episodes, from the finale. You kind of knew where it was going. So anyway, a little bit predictable. 0.5 star. Just wow, this was so bad I don't even know what to say. Why the fuck this show even called Watchmen? This show massacred Watchmen comics and even 2009 movies. Sad. Pretty bad English on that review, but I'll kind of agree with it, although I say it's better, a lot better than 0.5 star. It puts the villains as these almost over-the-top cliched stereotype figures, like, the KKK, but put in a modern setting. And, it could have done that better. Like, it could have shown the motivations. It doesn't show motivations, though. If they're just like cardboard cutout stereotype racial bad guys. And it doesn't like set up why they're like that. It could have picked one or two. Like, for example, it could have picked the senator who's the leader of this, this 7th Cavalry. There's a U.S. senator involved. It could have actually shown why he's like this, like why he believes the things that he's shown to believe and why he's leading the 7th Cavalry. But it doesn't. It's very superficial. And I think it wouldn't offend people so much if the bad guys were fleshed out, if it made sense why they were doing these things. Because just to make them cartoonishly over the top in the modern world like this, it just rings like just trying to cram a message down somebody's throat. But it wouldn't be as bad if they would just, in fact, it wouldn't ring like that at all if they would just like provide us with some kind of backstory on why that senator character's like that, for example, because they spend several episodes doing the same thing for protagonist characters that we're supposed to sympathize with. They should have done that for the senator. They should have shown us why he's doing what he's doing, but they didn't, and that's why it really feels like this heavy-handed message that's just being crammed down your throat. All they had to do was spend 1 episode on the senator or something along those lines. Why is the 7th Cavalry doing what it's doing beyond just wanting to be the bad guys in a very stereotyped, cliched, over-the-top way? That's all they had to do, and that's what I'm going to say on that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the second season it does all that. But I'm not even 100% sure there will be a second season, but we'll see. 5 stars, 4 hours ago. Rare storytelling style. I want to continue this extraordinary story. Okay, maybe. I still say 5 stars. No, it's not all that. There's just not enough setup. It was way too slow to tell us what the hell was going on. It took like half of its runtime was just consumed before you had a pretty good handle on how we got to where we were. That's a real fail. They should have been able to do that in 1 or 2 episodes, and they took half of the runtime of the 9 episodes to get there, and that's a fail to me. That's a major flaw. So I say no higher than 3 stars. 4 stars from 5 hours ago. The world of Watchmen is intoxicating and often strange. There were several episodes my mouth was wide open in awe. Watchmen isn't for everyone, but the writing is superb. Sometimes in the earlier episodes I questioned how all the pieces would fit together. I was very surprised, to say the least, in the end. Well, I'll disagree because I don't think that the writing is superb. I think the writing is good, but it doesn't rise to superb. For example, there's often dialogue in this in which people are talking about things being teleported across the galaxy, or moving things across the galaxy. There's several references to events in the show that happen no further away than a moon of Jupiter, and yet multiple characters keep referring to this as across the galaxy. No, this doesn't make any sense. This is bad writing. Even the common person on the street today in 2019 knows that Jupiter, or a moon of Jupiter, is not across the galaxy, much less super smart characters and police officers and etc. in this fictional world. So I just don't get why there's just really stupid writing like that, stupid dialogue like that. Yeah, I'm sorry, but Jupiter's not across the galaxy. And I'm not just nitpicking that because that's not said one time. That's shown in different episodes, multiple characters referring to the setting of Jupiter as being across the galaxy. Doesn't work. And there are some other issues like that throughout the various episodes, which would tell me that the writing is subpar. The writing is not superb. The writing is just okay. Now, there's enough weird stuff going on in the story. It's unique enough that this okay writing is enough, I think, to keep watching it, and I did keep watching it. But this is not superb. It's got problems, serious problems in that regard. 5 stars 5 hours ago, the best show on TV since Game of Thrones. I have a couple problems with that. First of all, Game of Thrones was really good all the way through the first 4 seasons, and then it went downhill all the way, and it really spiraled out of control when the producers, writers of Game of Thrones didn't have the original source material to carry them along. It really spiraled out of control, and it did so in an infamous fashion, and I certainly don't have to make videos about that. There's videos all over the place out there on what happened. So I think it's way too early to say that this is going to go on for 4 seasons and then just spiral out of control. If that's what's going to happen, well, it's going to end up with just a whole lot of pissed off people at the end of this. If this did go on for 6, 7, 8 seasons and ended up like Game of Thrones, you don't want it to go there. Trust me on that. You don't want this to go down the same path. So let's hope it doesn't if this continues. Best show on TV since? Well, maybe the best show on HBO. I might agree with that because I've been also watching this show, His Dark Materials. I didn't know anything about it going into it, but I've watched 4, 5, 6 episodes of it, and I'm starting to get a little bored of that. I think that show is becoming boring. So if I'm going to compare it to that, then this is better, yes, because I don't think Watchmen became boring at the end. It certainly actually became more interesting. You can see the flaws in it, but it's certainly not just a snooze fest. His Dark Materials, I had a lot of the first 1 or 2 episodes of it really kind of intrigued me, and then it just seems like it just became boring. It didn't take full advantage of its premise. Yeah, so I kind of agree with that. I don't watch every HBO show out there, but if you're talking dramas, yeah, Watchmen, it's unique enough to keep me watching, whereas His Dark Materials, I still have it on DVR. I don't know if I'm going to finish it. I might, but it's not high on my list because I'm starting to get bored with it. So let's move on. 5 hours ago, 5 stars. This show was incredible in its acting, writing, quality, direction, and overall storytelling. Episode 6 is truly amazing. Okay. I don't know if it's episode 6, but I'll say the episode that's, went into Looking Glass. That was fantastic. If there are more episodes like that, if there had been, if this had been the whole series, if it had started out episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, had been like episode 6, wow, then I'd be right up there agreeing with the critics. But no, more episodes need to be like that Looking Glass episode. that was quite an episode. And less episodes need to be like episode number 1 and 2, which set up a lot of mystery that seemed like it wasn't going to be explained at all. Yeah, let's move on. 5 stars, 6 hours ago. This is perfect television. No, it's not perfect, but it's unique enough to keep watching. 5 stars, 7 hours ago. I freely admit the first 2 episodes were slow, confusing, but all too often TV writers make episodes that are dumbed down for mass appeal. The brilliance of Watchmen, like Game of Thrones before it, is that you can go back and watch it a second time and discover more. The world is full of minor details that give it such rich texture, and you might miss it if you're not looking for it. Episodes 3 and 4 were good. Episode 5 was very good, but episodes 6, 7, and 8 were mind-blowing. I wouldn't say mind-blowing because you could see where they were going to go. I could see where this ultimately was going to go by episode 6. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But, your mileage might vary. If you're not used to comic book based stories and whatnot, maybe you haven't seen this type of story before, you wouldn't get it. It would have surprised you, but no, this has been done many times before differently. I would say that like I said, second season, if there is a second season, it better go someplace very different than what I would imagine, because if it doesn't, people are going to lose interest real fast. 5 stars, 7 hours ago, one of the best shows I've ever saw. 4 stars, 7 hours ago. 30 years or so after the events of the comic, we see the fallout of everyone's actions by focusing on Tulsa, which has a history of racial violence. Very well crafted and a great successor to the comics. It's weird and dark and kind of funny. The time perception stuff gets a little wonky. Jeremy Irons delivers a wonderful performance. Every episode is entertaining to watch, but I never had a strong desire to watch the next one. Yeah, I'll largely agree with that, but this reviewer is kind of schizophrenic. They're basically talking it down at the end, but giving it 4 stars, so I'm not sure what the exact part of it that they think is 4 stars. Maybe Jeremy Irons, I don't know. I just think a lot of this is could have been done better. We saw a lot of perspective on our protagonists. We should have had one episode on, our bad guys, our villains, our 7th Cavalry. We should have had one, at least explaining to us, what the hell's going on with them, what motivates them. Because if you're just going to say 7th Cavalry is just motivated because they're just racists, that's not going to cut it. Even in the real world, people become, hardcore racists not for no reason at all. There is a story in the background why they're like that. They're not born that way. And I think that if this show is just going to assume they're born that way for no reason and they're just like that as bad guys, that's really bad writing, because every villain, there should be a story about why they're the villain. We didn't get that. 4.5 stars, 8 hours ago. A very satisfying show. It sets up a lot. There are a lot of mystery boxes in the first half of the season. Yeah. But then something we're not used to today, flashbacks, explanations, solid relationships between the characters get highlighted, and the history they sometimes unknowingly share is deeply rewarding. It's a self-contained story that expands in an interesting way upon the comic and the movie, with a lot of hidden or not so hidden Easter eggs sprinkled everywhere. Even the racial theme, quite heavy. Yeah, they're going to continue on there, but that's the thing. This racial theme, it could have worked. It could have kept this show from becoming review bombed, if that's what happened. It could have done that, but then explained a little more on why these bad guys are such bad guys. It didn't do that, and that's why it comes off as very ham-fisted and over the top and offensive to a lot of people. You need to set up the villains a lot more than what they did. 5 stars. 8 hours ago, great television, 5 stars. Loved Watchmen. If you're a fan of the movie, the graphic novel, or just looking for a great new show, this is it. I've personally never read the graphic novel, only seen the Snyder film. I feel in love with the show because of its originality and its differences to the prior Watchmen material I've seen. Okay, I'll disagree. I think most people that were fans of the 2009 Zack Snyder movie, along with fans of the original comic that read that before, it was a movie, I think they're largely offended by this. I don't think that they consider this awesome. I think they're offended by it, again, because you have these bad, over-the-top, racially motivated villains. which have nothing to do with the original material, and you don't give them backstory. You don't make them explain to us how we got to this point with them and the 7th Cavalry. I think this is very offensive to people that are fans of the original comic, and that's why you have that bad audience score. But let's move on. 2 stars, 11 hours ago. A convoluted and contrived story with uninteresting characters and plot points that felt contradictory to the source material and illogical. Again, there we go. Just the point I made a few seconds prior. It's very contradictory to the source material and illogical because it wasn't set up right, and it took too long. When it finally started moving the plot forward and explaining things a little bit better, it just took too many episodes to do that. They should have done that within the first 2 episodes. That was a big fail not doing that. The characters are interesting, but they're put in situations where it's not taken advantage of properly, like Sister Knight. She's in a lot of footage that it could have been set up better to show more of what she was as a person before she was this police officer in Vietnam and etc. That's just not satisfying for a lot of people. You're supposed to follow along with her, but you don't get a real in-depth look at why she is the way she is beyond just her parents were killed in Vietnam and she was there, and then Dr. Manhattan approached her in a bar. Okay, fine. But why did he do that? And what was so special about her? And why did she act the way she did when he approached her in the bar? We don't really have a sense of that. It's too shallow, and that's a big flaw. And that's, again, why I say the writing, it's still got problems. 5 stars, 14 hours ago. Well done, a coherent vision of what might have become of the Watchmen universe, and exceptionally entertaining. Well, I'll agree it's entertaining. Like I said, I finished it. Exceptionally, well, that's a matter of opinion, really. It is entertaining. It deserves to continue, but it better go someplace unique. It really better. And, I'm not a big fan. I didn't read the original comic, so I'm not completely offended by the fact that the focus in this HBO show is on the racial stuff. It doesn't offend me. I just think it needs to be set up better. You need to get a better idea of why it's like this, not just like make these cardboard villains. It's really dumb. But let's move on. 18 hours ago, half a star, lame, overhyped by the critics. The plot is all over the place, disappointed. You could see that the plot is all over the place if you don't really pay attention between all the episodes. If you skip one of these episodes, you just skip over, like, say, the 4th one and move from the 3rd to the 5th, you're going to agree that the plot's all over the place because you won't know what the hell's going on. You'll be really confused. You've got to literally watch every episode, and I think that's very deliberate the way this is set up. But in a show in which you better make sure you have to have your audience needing to see every episode, you better have the writing so good that they are compelled to watch the next one, because if they just skip one for whatever reason, they're not going to try again. You're not going to get a second chance. A story like this, you have to have them on the first chance. You're not going to get a second one. The writing should have been better. 5 stars, 19 hours ago. Best show of 2019. Sad there won't be a second season. Well, I'm not so sure of that. A lot of people that really don't like the show are just going to say, they said it from the first episode, oh, well, this will never have another season. I'm not so sure on that one. It's interesting enough that yeah, it could have a second season, particularly when we're comparing it to what else HBO is offering at the same time. Like I said, their other stuff, it isn't necessarily better than this. It's not more unique or interesting. Dark Materials, it's okay, but it's getting boring. So I suspect this will continue at some point. But could be wrong, but we'll see. 19 hours ago in this review, 5 stars. A thought-provoking and insightful cinematic trip into a world all too familiar. Hard to look away. I disagree on that. There's nothing familiar about this world. Yes, it's on Earth. To me, there's nothing familiar about this. And in fact, I'll bet if you find somebody from modern-day Tulsa, Oklahoma, they might actually be a lot more offended by this than thinking that this is part of their world, because I'm sorry, but when did Tulsa, Oklahoma become the center of racial strife in the United States? It just did not. Yes, you can go back to the period around World War I and cite the event that happened there, but you can find these events all across the U.S. In this regard. So why pick on Tulsa? I don't know what the real reason for that is. But if I were from Tulsa, Oklahoma, I probably wouldn't appreciate the show doing this to Tulsa in this way, especially without, it's a very cardboard cliche villain type way of portraying Tulsa. And the audience doesn't really get an explanation. I mean, it is shown to us that all this stuff is going on in Tulsa, and Dr. Manhattan needs to get involved with somebody from Tulsa. Really? That's not the way the modern world works. Tulsa, no offense to Tulsa, but it's not a major point of focus in the United States. I'm sorry, it's just not. So again, these are problems in the writing. The writers needed to do a better job of setting this up and explaining why this is where it is. They didn't really. 5 stars, best series of 2019. Well, if you say best HBO series, okay, maybe. One Day Ago, 5 stars. Sometimes confusing because I didn't read the graphic novel, but always intriguing and thoughtful. We're getting a lot of 5-star reviews, and people are saying, well, it's not fair because Watchmen got review bombed. I disagree in a lot of ways because what I'm seeing is a lot of people are giving this 5 stars, and they're giving it 5 stars but actually leaving 2.5, 3-star reviews. And so that tells me the review bombing is going both ways. There are people review bombing this, and at the same time there are people like overcompensating deliberately, trying to put their thumb on the scale in the opposite way to say how great it is. So in the wash, I think this audience score is coming out fairly, and I've said my reasons for that. 5 stars, One Day Ago. HBO's Watchmen is definitely the most beautiful, mysterious, and beyond amazing TV show ever made. Sorry, Game of Thrones, but no matter how much seasons Game of Thrones has, Watchmen almost beat the entire Game of Thrones series with just one season. Thank you, Damon Lindelof. You gave us the best Watchmen sequel ever. No other comic book or movie will do what you did. That's debatable. Again, they're like doing the opposite of review bombing. They're really overhyping this in the opposite direction. This is 3 stars. Sure, I'll give it that. 5 stars. No, come on now. 5 stars again. One of the better shows as of late, but they're saying it's 5 stars, so that means if it's one of the better shows, this reviewer supposedly is also claiming there's a lot of 4-star shows out there. No, come on now. 3 stars. 2 stars from One Day Ago. Although had some moments, it's overall very disappointing, not edgy, incoherent, cheesy, and lazy in its search do easy social justice points. Yeah. It had moments. It had good episodes. Again, there's episodes that just feel like they're shoving a message down your throat and trying to use modern vernacular from our world to do that. And they're not setting it up properly. It just comes across as ramming it down our throats. And yeah, 5 stars, One Day Ago. Just going to leave a 5-star because it is really good and not deserve the hate. 2 stars, One Day Ago. The entire season is a lot of wrapping a single next chapter of the original story into a new idea, with many lost opportunities for truly expanding into a universe of character storylines. Yeah, there's a lot of lost opportunities because, again, it's all like focused on Tulsa, Oklahoma. A lot of lost opportunities just by doing that. I don't know, maybe that's a budget thing that keeps the budget low, not putting it somewhere where you would have to do a lot more to make it real, like LA, New York, wherever. I think that could be a budget thing, but there's a lot of lost opportunities too, putting the characters in places that they're not taken advantage of properly. Like, again, I'll cite the bar scene where God walks into the bar, that episode. Yeah, it was kind of unique, but a lot of lost opportunity there. I mean, the characters spend a lot of time just sitting at a table in a bar. We get very little out of that. There's no opportunity for acting to come out of either character. I found that more of a wasted opportunity. It could have been done better in a different setting. had the same amount of time taken up and just been more effective. So I say lost opportunity. I'll agree with that. Half a star, One Day Ago. Cinematography was beautiful, but couldn't make up for a series written only for critics and not viewers. Yeah, you know why it comes across like that? It comes across written only for critics because the racially motivated bad guys, they're not set up right. They're just like cartoonish and over the top, and just to deliver the bad guy, just to make it seems like it's to deliver a message because the writing just isn't there. There should have been one episode setting up the Seventh Cavalry, for example. Why do they think what they do? Why are they doing all this? We're not given any of that, so it's very cartoonish, and it feels like it was just designed to score social justice points. It's very unfortunate. One Day Ago, 5 stars. A worthy sequel to the comics. Hopefully there is a season 2. Could be. 5 stars, the best TV show in 2019. 5 stars, truly brilliant, unique, and importantly with a satisfying ending. 5 stars, a near-perfect sequel that complements the original while telling a story all its own. Watchmen is tense, surprising, and incredibly original. You know, I don't disagree with a lot of that, but I disagree on calling it 5 stars. I say 3 stars. That's it. 1.5 stars. Meh. I don't even care enough to properly review it. It just became meh. Yeah, if you just watch the first 2 or 3 episodes, yeah, I guarantee you a lot of people probably checked out by the 3rd episode because it's too slow. There's nothing happening, too many mysteries, and not enough payoff. It's a big flaw in this, a really big flaw. If you had come out and said right off the bat that we're coming out with 2 or 3 seasons of this, and it's going to, take some time, people would have been more forgiving, but they just put the 1 season out there, and I don't even know if there's going to be a season 2, so it's like they wasted a lot of time. I don't know. Maybe there's more backstory to it on why it was done like that I don't know about, but for me it feels like they lost a lot of people by not using the first 1 and 2 episodes properly, by not taking advantage of people's initial interest. 1.5 stars, meh, okay. 1 star, watch something else. This was painfully lame. 5 stars, One Day Ago. I loved it. It was complex and difficult to follow at times, especially early on, but letting the story play out is well worth the time investment in the series. It could be, but again, it's going to really depend on where season 2 it's going to go, if there is one. It better start out unique right from minute 1, because if it isn't, man, they're not going to keep this audience. It better be unique. Half a star, One Day Ago. This series is really fucking shit. 5 stars. 2 days ago, wonderful television, 5 stars. A near masterpiece of a show with characters you grow to love and villains who aren't as two-dimensional as they first appear. Huge fan of the comic here, and this is a great successor. Highly recommended. 2 days ago, 2 stars. It's okay, kind of got the whole American checkered history, but I let it entertain me, and it's cool, but the last 2 episodes were just trash. That's kind of a weird review. Most people say the first 2 were just trash and the last 2 were actually better, but okay. 4.5 stars, 2 days ago. Interesting and visually appealing, half a star. This really sucked. They've destroyed everything about it. I unfortunately cannot unsee this. Yeah, that's a review from somebody that's, knows the original comic or is a fan of the 2009 Zack Snyder movie. Yes, they're going to have these half-star reviews. 2 days ago, 1 star. The finale was so terrible that I feel I wasted my time following this series. It spent the first 6 episodes building up the dire menace of white racism, a wholly unoriginal concept to begin with, only to toss it aside in the finale. And in the space of 1 hour, we are told Adrian Veidt has a daughter, whom he then forsakes, but then appeals to for her rescue, which of course she does, only to have Daddy plot her death. The Boys is a million times better. No second season appears imminent. Yeah, they've got a point here. They should have set more of this up in the first 2 episodes. It does spring a lot at you in the last 1 episode. It doesn't come across to me as illogical. It comes across as believable, and it explains things, but it should have been more. It should have been brought out earlier, in earlier episodes. It's like this show wasted the first 2 or 3 episodes and it didn't have to. Again, it's a flaw of the writing. If this had been better done from the first 2 episodes, they wouldn't have had to cram so much in the last one. A lot of wasted time. Those first 1, 2, even 3 episodes. Why? 5 stars 2 days ago. Suspenseful and well done. 5 stars. Amazing. Regina King is a queen and a force. Great show. Great writing. Great cinematography. Great acting. Great. Again, they mentioned Regina King. I think that's a flaw. Regina King doesn't come across as an action hero. She looks a little too old, a little too out of shape. I'm not saying she's a bad actress. I'm just saying they needed to either cast somebody that's more believable as the character, or they needed to get her into better shape. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I'm sure she got paid. She needed to be put into better shape like they normally do with actors, actresses when they're put in these type of roles. They didn't do that, and it's like kind of felt a little unbelievable to me that she was this character doing what she was doing, beating up guys, and she didn't look like she was in the best of shape. Okay. 4 stars 2 days ago. Inventive, intelligent, and bewildering all at once. Watchmen is a TV show like no other, a strong ensemble, a timely commentary on white supremacy, and a deft combination of fantasy, history, politics, and romance make Watchmen not only a fascinating viewing experience, but a necessary one. I'll stop there and just say I don't think it's a timely commentary on white supremacy because it's not set up. It's just cardboard white supremacy. We all know what white supremacy is. We know what every type of racial bias is on a cardboard level. This is just cardboard level villain type stuff. They needed to have an episode setting up the 7th Cavalry or that senator character or somebody along those lines to tell us why they were like that and doing what they were doing. Otherwise, just like putting a cardboard villain up there is not some timely commentary on anything, because it's just like bad writing. So again, I say if season 2 doesn't do something very unique and make up for that flaw in season 1, they're not going to keep the audience that they have. But I'll continue. There's a reason why so many people are talking about it. You sometimes do get lost in the madness and the strangeness of it all, and not every scene or line is a triumph, but the series is overall confident, polished. Well, I'll agree it's very confident. Whoever wrote this is confident that they're not afraid to do what they're doing. I'll give them that. But oftentimes they do it in a very bad way. Again, I just explained the villains aren't done properly. But they're very confident in what they're doing. That might be a bad writer, though, because when a writer doesn't realize their flaws, they just keep doing this, and they're not going to get through a second season if they keep doing this. So they better bring on another writer, or they better bring on somebody to fix the writing, or it's going to head for serious trouble. 5 stars 2 days ago. Absolutely incredible. I was hooked from episode 1. The music, cinematographer, and direction was amazing. 5 stars 2 days ago. Excellent season of TV. Wraps it up all nicely in one season that keeps you guessing until the last episode. I loved every last minute of it. 5 stars, not English. 2 days ago, half a star, too far away from source material. Yep, again, nobody. You have to do a lot better if you want to bring people that are fans of the original comic into this type of world, because you have to show us how we got from the 1980s of the comic or the 2009 movie to where we are in HBO's Watchmen. You have to bridge that gap, or you're just going to keep getting these bad reviews from people that just you failed to bring along. But you have that opportunity if there's a season 2. 5 stars 2 days ago. This is one of the best written, scored, directed, and acted shows I've seen in a long time. I wouldn't do all that. The writing is not good. Oftentimes the writing is completely bad. Scored, directed, well, the director and the writer are the same person, I believe, largely. So you'll have to say the director, he needs to bring help. He needs to bring somebody else to write this, not him. He can direct it, but he better bring a different writer if this is going to continue. Half a star, confusing and pointless. Yeah, it is. If you're not watching every damn episode and you're not really focused, it's going to be damn confusing. 1 star 2 days ago. A mess of unfocused storytelling, uninteresting mysteries for the sake of mysteries, and a total lack of character motivations and development made up the most disappointing season of television I have watched in a long time. Anyone hoping for a taste of Moore's unique blend of Ditko, Eisner, and Lovecraft, or a compelling storytelling storytelling of any kind. Stay far away from this one. Watch out. 2003's The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. There is a new contender for worst more adaptation. Yes, League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. I did a rotten review on it. It's considered rotten, but you know what? In a lot of ways, the writing in that is better. The writing in the movie, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, it has less flaws than the writing here. The writing here, like I said, bring another writer because this director needs to just direct and let somebody else write. Disappointing. I wouldn't say it's the most disappointing. I think his Dark Materials is becoming too boring. I gave it a chance at the beginning. I would say it's more disappointing because for something as unique as that, now I'm not a reader of the original novels, but just the premise of his Dark Materials, the same premise that was found in the movie The Golden Compass. It's a very interesting premise, you know, but it's just a little too boring. So I'll say, no, I don't agree that this is the most disappointing, but I say this has got to get better if it's going to continue. Particularly the bad guys in this, they're just cardboard bad guys, and it doesn't work like that. It's really offensive to a lot of people. But let's continue. 5 stars 2 days ago, not English. Half a star 2 days ago. Characters are awful. The main characters are awful. Story is not engaging at all. Doesn't belong in the Watchmen universe. Not sure what show the critics are watching or if they actually read the graphic novel. Alan Moore's work needs to be better respected. You know, they keep bringing up Alan Moore. He is respected amongst comic book fans, but nobody else respects him. They really crap on his work. Like, they do the most ridiculous kind of insulting things with his work, but yet he keeps signing up. He keeps letting people do things with his work. So, you know, at some point you have to kind of put the blame on him, kind of like Stephen King. Stephen King produces, oftentimes he has produced really outstanding writing, and he's produced a lot of crap writing, but almost every movie that's produced from his writing over the decades has really been offensively bad. It's almost been an insult to his writing in a lot of ways. But he's the one that released it. He's the one that participated and went along with it all. And in a lot of cases, he's the one that actually sat there next to the director and let it all happen. And I don't know how hands-on Alan Moore is with actual productions, you know, adaptations of his work. But he just keeps letting it happen. So at a certain point, you have to blame him because he's not saying no to anybody, apparently. 5 stars 2 days ago. Immediately one of the best TV shows of all time. I wouldn't go that far. Again, I'll say this is 3 stars. 4.5 stars. Cleverly written, very well acted and shot. Watchmen brings something unique to the world of superheroes while managing to stay both fresh and true to the source material at the same time. That's debatable. The series' approach, while less action-heavy or bombastic than something like The Boys, feels very nuanced and realistic. I think they mean feels very nuanced and realistic, something that should be commended. The series drags a little in the middle, although the last episode was one of the most satisfying conclusions to a season ever made. Yeah, I'll say overall it's interesting. It's worth watching all the way through, but it's very badly written at the beginning, and it almost, you know, I think they lost half their audience at the beginning. Now, HBO doesn't release, apparently, their real numbers. There's a lot more DVR viewers than there are live viewers. That's the way it is on a lot of programs on HBO and everywhere else. And you're not going to get the real numbers, but I would say it probably has a lot of DVR viewership. And, you know, when people get to episodes on their DVR, they're going to watch it. It's interesting enough to do that. But I think it would have lost a lot of its audience. It lost all the water cooler type audience that's going to talk about it at work. It lost a lot of them in the first 2 episodes, and that's really a flaw on the writing. The writing's not superb. But, you know, there are other episodes, like the one that had Looking Glass's backstory. That was fantastic. The writing was beautiful. It worked in every way. There should have been more of that, and there wasn't. That's the problem. 5 stars 2 days ago. This show was amazing. I was not sold on the show until episode 6, which was really good. Again, backing up what I'm saying. Episode 8 was so well written and directed that it makes the whole series worthy of 5 stars. Yep, but it just like screwed up those first 2 and 3 episodes. It just lost a lot of the patience of the viewer. 5 stars 2 days ago. This is a great show that acknowledges and addresses hard truths in a very entertaining way. Well, it would have been if it set up the bad guys. It should have done that in the first 1 or 2 episodes, and it didn't, so it just came across as very preachy and offensive to a lot of people. So no 5 stars here. 3 stars, though, I'll give it that. 5 stars 2 days ago. This show is amazing. 5 stars 2 days ago. Very well thought out and put together show that holds your attention in a sweet way. One of the favorites from Lindelof. 5 stars. An excellent continuation of the story from the original graphic novel, updated for our present day and age. I think it was very much in the spirit of the original, but instead of the threat of atomic war, the show addresses themes of racial tension in America. 4.5 stars. Some of the best television I've ever seen. I'm probably going to call it with that, and I'm just making the point that for everybody out there that says the show, it's the victim of review bombing on Rotten Tomatoes, that's why it has the 51% audience score. No, I'm sorry. For every review bomber out there giving it half a star because they don't like something political about it and they never watched it, there are plenty of people that are giving this 5 stars, but they're only actually describing it as a 3 star. Sometimes they're describing this in a 2 star way, but they're giving it 5 stars to try to like compensate for the bad reviews. All in all, this comes out in the wash. Like, you get a pretty accurate, I think, read on the audience score. 51%. I would consider that pretty accurate. That could go up if this had a season 2. A different writer was brought in, and the director just focused on the directing and had somebody write the villains better and write everybody else better too. This could easily go up to an 80% audience score because it wouldn't come across preachy and offensive to a lot of people. This would actually come across well if the writing was better. So that's going to be my conclusion on this, and I actually kind of hope there is a season 2. I want to see a season 2. I want to see it done right. I don't have a problem with where they took the Watchmen story. The 2009 movie I thought was okay. Not, a fan favorite of mine, but I thought it was okay. I'm perfectly willing to believe and get invested in this version of the Watchmen universe. I just think the writing needs to be better. And maybe there will be a season 2. So in any case, I'm going to call this one at the end now, and I'm going to see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.